Welcome to my views and news. This news bulletin has new stories from Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan and France. First news story is about death of a Fano commander in a confrontation in clashes with security forces. The Fano commander fought against Tigray forces too in 2021 when Tigray forces entered north and south Gondar. He was on front lines, and after Tigray war came to an end, he was granted with a medal for his services during Tigray war. But now the same and other Fano commanders, Fano fighters are clashing with security forces. Secondly, viewers, Berhanu Nega's EZEMA party's future is in danger. Party's main leader, Malik Agar, resigned a few months ago. Then around 60 to 70% of the members of executive committee resigned, and after that more than 200 top members resigned yesterday. Why? Why is that so many EZEMA party officials, not just members, they are resigning? Thirdly, Tigray, viewers, law and order situation, security situation is not improving. Reports are coming in about increase in crime rate in Tigray. Fourthly, Eritrea, viewers, for the last 2 days, it was being rumored that Eritrean embassy in Addis Ababa had suspended consular services and some other services. Some went on to the extent of claiming that Eritrean embassy in Amhara was closed. I was trying to confirm. Luckily, I got in touch with the people who have been there to the embassy. So I have details for you. Fifthly, Sudan, where Malik Agar, Sudan Sovereignty Council Vice Chairman, newly appointed head of SPLM, Sudan People Liberation Movement, Malik Agar Group, is in Russia. He arrived in Moscow, I think yesterday. Then talks were held there. And lastly, France, viewers. Today is day 4 of riots in France. Vehicles being burned, properties being set on fire, properties being looted to attacks on police officers, several injured, hundreds arrested, curfew imposed in some places. What is happening in France? We have details for you. Firstly, viewers, first news story is about the death of a Fano commander. Around 24 hours ago, more than 24 hours ago, I did a video on fighting between Fano fighters and Ethiopian security forces on Ibnath front. Fano fighters from Gondar wanted to enter Ibnath. They were stopped at the entrance. They were not allowed to enter Ibnath. Then locals intervened, local religious elders, they intervened. Fano fighters were allowed to enter Ibnath. Before that, they had called reinforcements. So, hundreds of Fano fighters managed to enter Ibnath. Later, clashes erupted between Fano fighters and Ethiopian security forces. I reported that in a video more than 24 hours ago. In this incident, a top Fano commander was killed. His name is Tafira Janbaro. Tafira Janbaro, a young man married with kids, fought in Tigray war too, fought against Tigray fighters, fought on different fronts like Zarima, Tuber, Gashina, China. Mainly in north and south Gondar, he fought against Tigray forces. And after that, some Fano fighter services were acknowledged by Amhara regional government, and they were granted medals for their role in the fight against Tigray forces. Tafira Janbaro was also awarded with a medal. Then we saw that in the Amhara region, the Fano fighters who fought against Tigray forces in 2020, they turned against Amhara regional government, Ethiopian federal government, when the governments tried to disarm and disband Fano factions. Since then, we have been seeing fighting between Fano fighters and Ethiopian security officials in different parts of the Amhara region. In this incident in Ibnath, Tafira was killed, and some other Fano fighters too. Security forces also suffered losses. Some say more than a dozen Ethiopian army soldiers were killed in this incident on Ibnath front. This is the first major loss by Fano fighters since Ethiopian army launched operation in Amhara this year. The operation was launched last year, but it intensified this year when Ethiopian military disbanded Amhara Special Force. The decision was rejected by some members of Amhara Special Force who joined Fano faction. Then Fano Fano was under pressure before that, but after ASF members, some ENDF members joined Fano. Fano resurfaced, it tried to reorganize itself. Since then, we have been seeing intensified security operation in the Amhara region. First major loss suffered by Fano fighters in the form of Tafira Janbaro. Where will he be buried? I think he's from Debre Tabor, West Gondar. Reportedly, he'll be buried in Debre Tabor, and we could see large number of Fano fighters in Debre Tabor to attend his funeral. Let's hope there is no unrest in Debre Tabor, or there is no face-off, no confrontation between security forces and Fano fighters in Debre Tabor. We'll try to update you about his burial in upcoming videos. Second news story is about EZEMA party of Berhanu Nega, its future uncertain. Berhanu Nega struggled in the past. He was based in Eritrea when EPRDF was in power. He and Berhanu Nega, they were based in Eritrea. They were then leaders of an armed anti-Ethiopian government, EPRDF movement. They were backed, sponsored, funded by Eritrean government. Then they managed to reach the US. They were based there. They founded ESAT, both Berhanu Nega and Berhanu Nega. And after PM Abiy came to power, we saw that those who were outside Ethiopia, because of EPRDF's actions, they returned. Bertokan returned, Berhanu Nega returned, several others. Berhanu Nega also visited Ethiopia, and several other leaders who were dissidents when EPRDF was in power. Berhanu Nega founded EZEMA. EZEMA announced to be an opposition party in 2021 election. It contested as opposition party. It could not win any significant number of seats, just a few seats. But PM Abiy decided to accommodate opposition parties at the cabinet. So EZEMA's head, Berhanu Nega, was appointed as Federal Minister of Education. I think he is Gurage, Berhanu Nega, but he had Amhara support. His party had support from Amhara region-based groups, from Amhara people. Now we're seeing a political shift in the Amhara region, that anti-government sentiment in the Amhara region is materializing, and those who are supportive of the government are being seen as anti-Amhara. That is why Berhanu Nega's party officials are leaving the party, because they believe that party is part and parcel of the federal government's policies. It is not raising its voice for the protection of wronged communities, the communities which are under threat. And they say that Amharas are under threat, their existence, their survival under threat. But Berhanu Nega's party is enjoying the perks and privileges of being in power. That is why Adiso Arage, a party's top leader who announced to contest party election against Berhanu Nega, resigned a few months ago. Then last month, party's 60% members of executive committee resigned, and now reportedly more than 200 party officials have resigned, not members but officials. Berhanu Nega's party's future is uncertain. Though the party was not very big party, it could not register any impact in 2020 election. So it's not expected to deliver more, to perform better in the next election too. Thirdly was Tigray, where security situation is not improving, though Pretoria deal came into effect in November last year. But after that, we saw that law and order situation deteriorated. Armed gangs are operating across Tigray, especially in main cities of Tigray. Even in Mekelle, people say that law and order situation is very fragile. From Shire, Axom and other cities of Tigray to similar reports are coming in that street crime is on the rise. People cannot go outside with their belongings. Sometimes mobiles are snatched, cash is snatched, and hospitals are confirming that people are reporting at hospitals with injuries because of the attacks by robbers. Several gangs are operating. Mainly robberies and extortion. Robbery and extortion are on the rise in Tigray cities. Tigray is definitely trying to reorganize its police, its judicial structure, its prosecution structure. But more than 6 months have passed. So far, Tigray government should have been able to control this rising crime rate. It has not happened. And it could be due to unemployment, due to suspension of aid, that people have nothing to eat. Sometimes they resort to crimes to fill their bellies. So we must not ignore this aspect as well, that Tigray youth should be involved. Peace deal is not being properly implemented. Reintegration of Tigray fighters is not happening for lack of funds mainly. That is what Getachew told us a few days ago. So those Tigray fighters who were armed and who were given food to, they're on their own now. They're not being reintegrated into any forces. They have not been given money to start businesses. So what will they do? How will they survive? I am not saying that all these criminals are Tigray fighters, but Tigray fighters must be involved. Involved in terms of they should be given jobs, they should be given money to start their businesses. Otherwise, these fighters could turn to criminal activity. It could happen. Fourthly was Eritrea. Is Eritrean embassy in Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital, closed? Several news outlets are trying to give an impression as if matters between Ethiopia and Eritrea have reached a point of no return, that there are serious tensions between the two countries. I'll speak on that in coming videos, maybe tomorrow. Which groups are trying to fuel a conflict between Ethiopia and Eritrea, and how grave are tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea. It was reported by an Amharic news source 2 days ago that Eritrean embassy in Addis Ababa was closed, or it had suspended its operations. So I then got in touch with several Eritreans who got in touch with the people. I called the embassy, no one picked up the call. Then a friend confirmed from the ground, and after that he contacted me. Embassy is operational. Eritrean embassy in Addis Ababa is operational. Consular service is not suspended. The rumors were spread after Ethiopia expelled, it deported hundreds of Eritreans. They were handed over to Eritrean Defense Force by Ethiopian government. Then it was claimed that Eritrea had stopped consular services in Addis Ababa. So far, embassy is operational. Fifthly, we are Sudan, where Sudanese Sovereignty Council Vice Chairman is visiting countries. Since his appointment, how many countries have been visited by Malik Agar? Malik Agar is from Blue Nile State, head of SPLM, Malik Agar group. And in Blue Nile, we saw that other SPLA faction carried out an attack on Sudanese military camp on Ethiopia-Sudan border, and after that thousands of Sudanese entered Ethiopian territories from Berhanu Nega state. So Malik Agar is not in control of the situation in his own state, but since his appointment as Deputy Chairman of Sudan Sovereignty Council more than a month ago, he has been visiting different countries. He visited several countries so far. I think I saw him in, I saw his pictures in South Sudan, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in Djibouti. Then he visited Egypt. And now he is in Russia. Who is paying for all these foreign trips? Obviously, Sudanese government, Sudanese military. And yesterday, he met with Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister. Talks were held there, and after that Sergei Lavrov spoke about the war in Sudan, and he said that Russia was ready to play a role in the normalization of things in Sudan. So it means that now Russia wants to play a role for the resolution of conflict, or it wants to be a player in Sudan, while US and Saudi Arabia are frustrated. We saw that US and Saudi Arabia tried to mediate between the two sides. Several rounds of talks were held in Jeddah. Some ceasefires were agreed, could not be implemented, but the two sides, Saudi Arabia and US, they are frustrated now. African countries announced a mediation through IGAD, but it could not take shape. Now Russia seems to be interested. Let's see, can Russia play a role? Russia has lots of its own problems. It is fighting a war in its neighborhood, even on its home soil too. Some attacks there. Let's see. But Russia is interested in being a player in Sudan, it seems. Lastly, viewers, we have a new story from France. Today is day 4 of riots in France. In France, a youth, 17-year-old boy was shot dead by police. Nahil is the name of the boy, from Moroccan and Algerian descent. He was stopped. His car was stopped by police at a checkpoint. He tried to flee. Police officer shot, and Nahil died. And then we saw start of protests by migrants, mainly from Africa, from Arab countries. And these protests are now spreading across France. Properties being set on fire, vehicles being burned, banks being set on fire, curfew imposed in some cities of France, and the government in some localities, though the government could impose curfew in main cities too, reportedly. People say that migrants of Arab and African descent are mostly seen with suspicion by security forces, by police. That is why this is not the first time that a migrant has been shot dead by French police. That is why protests intensifying. Government is calling for calm. At the same time, more than 400 have been arrested so far in the operations by security forces against these protesters. Dozens of police officers have been injured in these riots. So far, riots are spreading across France. Thank you for watching.